YouTube, there's a new sheriff in town. So what we're going to be running through here now today is just going to be pretty much a day in the life, giving you some insight into myself, background, and essentially as to where I want to take everything now as well for going forward. And I'm going to be going on a little bit of an adventure around Dublin. And if you've never been to Ireland before, it's pissing rain out. So you're going to get a clear insight as to what Ireland is like. A fucking shithole. So let's crack on.
I said, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
Deputy dog. First things first, this is Tiny, deputy dog. So I had to bring her down to Mars now for a couple of hours just for some granny, daughter. Yeah, daughter, granny, fucking bonding time. So it's gonna be awesome. Let's go. Come on, Kiko. That's it. And again. Now, I know some of you may be thinking, who is this fella called himself the sheriff and deputy dog here now running the muck? But the idea of this whole channel now for going forward, and something that I will be very much consistent with, is just to give you a lot more of an insight into myself, what I'm about. Because when it comes to, let's say, short form content, you don't necessarily get to see the whole insight to the actual person. So I want to be able to bring out a lot more of myself, and that's going to be the whole intention with this channel, as well as what my sole intention is and purpose, what I genuinely feel and believe in, is to go about just helping people in the best way I feel possible, in the sense of everything from a mindset point of view, lifestyle, health, fitness, to become the best version of themselves. So I want to obviously give a little bit of background in relation to all that, as well as to why I even got into this, because when it comes to this industry and going about helping people, it is something that I feel a lot of people just get into it just to get into it because they see as to what other people can be doing online. They just want to get into it for the money. But if it's something that you're going to sustain going forward, I genuinely do feel you have to have like a purpose behind it. And with that purpose, usually comes from a place of pain as to what you potentially grew up with, growing up, and the shit that you encountered, as to how you ended up going about bettering things for yourself. So then from all those, like, let's say, negative situations, all those learning opportunities that you went through, it helps you then reinforce more belief into yourself from you consistently learning and upskilling to then be able to go about helping other people. And that's what I'm all about, and that's what I want to do now for going forward. Now before we head into town, Monster, 1 year 5 a day. When it comes to helping people, everybody has their own shit that they have gone through in their life. That obviously essentially brings them to me, whoever it may be, to go about essentially just trying to become better. But going through a journey of, let's say, uncertainty, the doubt, the unknown as to what to even do, can be quite frustrating. And for me, when I was growing up, I didn't have a breeze as to what I was doing. I was always extremely overweight. It wasn't always intentional. Now, I was nicknamed Garfield when I was younger at a certain point. Xbox, lasagna, that was me. I think I had like 3 lasagnas a day, so Garfield became the nickname because Fat Red. Lasagna made sense. Me being overweight came down to like various different factors. Obviously, yeah, I did love food, but it was also because I didn't realise, more so now, actually until this year, for just the general shit as to when I was younger, as to what I was essentially masking, and I was using food as a voice, as to what some people would use, let's say smoking, drinking, whatever it may be. Food was something for me that was familiar and made me feel comfortable, and I leaned into it a lot because I did enjoy it. But with that, I also went through a shit ton of injuries growing up in the younger years. I have screws in both my hips. I thought it was a great idea when I was younger, when there was a big like snowstorm, I think it was like 2009, 2008, going to 6th class. So I was like, I'm gonna cycle to school. I shouldn't have cycled to school. We can blame my mum for this one. She shouldn't have let me cycle to school. But I did anyway. And I thought it'd be funny to cycle over ice to see if it broke. So I cycled over one sheet of ice. It did break. And then I fucking cycled over a second sheet. I broke myself. It was a disaster. Knee went, and then from my knee going, my balls in my hip fell out of place. Then the other one, that fell out of place. So it led me to be in a wheelchair for a number of months and like on crutches for nearly fucking 2 years. From all the inactivity over that 2-year period, it did obviously cause me to become quite lazy. Modern Warfare 2 also came out around this time, I'm pretty sure, so I was just spending my time prioritising it for the most part, just quick scoping the life out of everybody. And with being in Dublin, if you're not from Dublin, I don't know as to where it is, as to where you're from, but if you're from Dublin, you're gonna know the shit. That's gonna lead to a world of fucking slagging in school, and it can be an absolute fucking disaster. So if you don't have thick skin, you could very easily go home crying. Now, I had thick skin, but still it can get you. And with all that, I did shrug it off, but it was something that naturally bothered me. And I didn't actually realise as to how much it did bother me, as I said, pretty much until this year. So with all that then, and wanting to obviously go out and attract some females, because with me having bigger boobs than some of them, I wasn't really going in my favour all too much. Once I found the gym though, it made a big fucking difference. Now, I did lose a lot of weight initially when I started going, but I was doing it arseways, crash dieting like fuck, living on salads. I think my mum was making me a Caesar salad every single day. Thanks, man. But with that, I was going through phases, up in weight, down in weight, up in weight, down in weight. Then I got into a relationship, so I did actually meet a girl, and then I ballooned like fuck again. And then obviously got too comfortable in the relationship, and yeah, I got my boobies back. But once that relationship went to the dogs, I said, fuck this, I'm getting myself back into the gym. And then I went about actually trying to employ myself properly, trying to upskill, learn, and get as much insight as possible, because my confidence was in the bin. The slagging did not help. And we obviously then looking and trying to figure out everything in which I wanted to figure out. I started the personal training course, and then that somewhat set me off on a trajectory, obviously, to go about doing this. Now, I say somewhat because I got into it. Then the gym that I started in went up in flames in Coolock, got burnt down, and then with that, so did my fucking personal training career. So I was like, right, that's me. And I went and done greenkeeping for like a year and a half, 2 years, basically a glorified grass cutter. Once I actually got back into the gym, which was actually quite a funny coincidence of a story as to how it did happen. One of those things, I'm very much into, like, let's say, manifestation, everything, energy, alignment, all that woo-woo kind of stuff. But you could say this is definitely one of those things as to how everything did just happen the way it happened. And then even thinking back to earlier stages in life with the slagging, get myself into the gym, trying to obviously figure out different things, the challenges of which I went through. I say I tried every fucking fad diet under the sun, but it helped me out massively for then getting into this next phase of my life, which I was just so unbelievably passionate about, which I didn't necessarily realise how passionate about it that I was until I really started to actually help people, and obviously getting their input, just their overall feedback as to how they're finding it, and seeing them smile and knowing that it was actually me having such a fucking big impact on them. I thought it was fucked. If I'm being honest, I actually still fucking do. So this gym here, Gym X, that was the first gym that I ended up starting in. And as to how I did start, as I said, it was a bit of a fucking coincidence as to how everything does happen. Like, I did get into the personal training course. My mom actually threw me into the personal training because I actually was working in a pub at a certain point, and I was doing absolutely fuck all. Besides just staying back, lock-ins, drinking, waking up the next day and doing nothing. My mom was like, yeah, Sean, you're going to do fucking personal training, because she knew that was something that I was very much into. And I did love it, and she was right. But with that was the first gym that I ended up starting in. And as to how that happened was, I was training a good friend of mine at the time. For a few months, we were like best mates. We were fucking with each other every single fucking day, and we were training in that gym there, and as to when it opened, and he was getting a good bit bigger, putting a good amount of size on his frame. He was naturally skinny build, so he was putting a good amount of size on his frame. And then with that, I was in the change room, just obviously fucking getting changed. He was outside talking to the owners, and then essentially I walked out, and they offered me the job. And I left the greenkeeping the week after and said, fuck this, going all in, and went back to college and everything. And then pretty much the rest was somewhat history. Lockdown kicked in, and yeah, I went back to my old habits and everything again, and things didn't really go all too well for the first 2 lockdowns, and then I started to really dial everything back in again. So we're out of the car now in lovely sunny Dublin, as you can see. But with everything then, over the few years after, let's say, lockdowns, getting back into the swing of things, I was starting to hold myself to a higher standard. But realistically, in the grand scheme of things, looking back, it was still absolutely fucking dog shit. Because when it comes to being a personal trainer and just essentially trying to be an inspiration for somebody, you have to hold your standard very high. I was still finding myself out on the weekends. I was still doing all the bad shit that you shouldn't necessarily be doing, and essentially telling people, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. Yet I was obviously doing that then as well. I got myself to a point where I had fucking no clients. I was trying to obviously balance out doing deliveries to be able to pay my bills, be able to do obviously what I had to do, get food in, go on dates, whatever the fuck it may be, to keep me going. But we're having the lack of clients coming in, as to how I was holding myself, it makes clear sense now looking back as to why I actually ended up finding myself in the position that I ended up getting myself into. Now, how I ended up getting myself to this point, it was also a lot of my fault. Obviously, the client side of things, yeah, but as to why I actually was fucked out of the house and why I was then put in this position, it was a lot on me.
we have the ADHD sort of things. This year I've only really started to lean into everything about the brain, neuroscience, and I find it absolutely fascinating. I didn't know how to regulate my emotions. I didn't understand essentially why I was feeling the way I was feeling, and it drove a lot of frustration and it caused a lot of fucking fights in the house. So I ended up getting myself into a position where obviously I did have reliability of, let's say, a home, folks and everything being able to look after me. But because I ended up essentially being a fucking wanker at a certain point, my folks had every right to kick me out of the house. And you know what, looking back, it was probably the best thing now that they ever have done, because it set me up then for the direct trajectory, there we go, as to where everything came from that initial situation. So even though, yeah, shit things can happen, there's always a fucking good reason behind them as to why these things then do happen, if that even makes sense. So then in 2024, at the end of it, I found myself in a position living out in a car and living out of this fucking hostel here now that was behind me. And even though it was such a negative situation, and also such a negative situation as to how I ended up coming to that point, it set me up for a lot of learning about myself, and it gave me the understanding essentially as to what I needed to do to go about getting myself out of it, which was essentially hard work and getting my head back in line as to the man essentially as to what I wanted to be, and the man I knew that I could be as to what I was shying away for such a long time. And I still have a lot of work to do, but I know if I didn't go through this period, where I'm at now, which isn't anywhere else, it's obviously a great fucking position, I couldn't be any happier, but I still have a lot of goals to what I want to achieve. But if it wasn't for this shit, it's very unlikely if I even would be fucking standing here. I definitely wouldn't be standing here doing this now. And that's what life's all about, innit? Like, taking every negative situation as an opportunity for growth, you know what I mean? Your mind is always going to try to play tricks on it. It's always going to lean more so into the negative as opposed to the positive. And it's about getting an understanding into the negative to flip it into a positive. Because no matter what negative situation life does throw at you, there's always going to be a piece of gold that you can find in it. I do think it's funny though walking around town now, like, because I remember all the evenings that I used to have to walk around here, try to get the steps in, trying to go into like different places, try to get a little bit of grub. Like what I always used to do is go into that fucking Spar over there. You get wraps until like fucking 3 o'clock in the morning, come back and mill them. And it was handy as well because it's fucking cheap as chips, so you couldn't really go wrong. But I do think it's funny now, like walking around town, because obviously town for me years ago would have been like going out with the lads, falling around drunk, having like those type of memories. Now it's more so like walking around town, fucking trying to get the steps in, because I was essentially too fucking afraid to go back to that hostel because it was just so uncomfortable. It was such a weird bleeding feeling. And it was the last thing that I always wanted to do. So I was always the last in and first up. Not really able to sleep throughout the course of the night, and then I'll just get in the car and go driving for the day. I usually did have maybe 1 or 2 clients in the morning in the gym at that point, go in, have my shower, get my training, and then that was me for the day, just driving around. It was hectic, but walking town in the evening time, that was the one thing throughout the course of the day that I somewhat looked forward to and put my mind at ease to some degree. Tell you what, first YouTube video, the weather now is absolutely piss, but we're not here to fucking take part, we're here to take over. So I even went and got myself one of these bad boys. We're not here to fuck about anymore. Fucking sheriff on duty. So we're back in the car now. It was raining, and now obviously when we get back in, sunny, the shades are on. But anyway, long story short, this was just a little broad overview as to how everything has gone for me over the past couple of years, and as to what has obviously got me to this point to be on YouTube, talking shit to you, filling you in on everything. But with that, obviously if I was to get into all the fucking nitty gritty type stuff, this would turn into a 9-hour podcast, and you're not going to sit through that shit. But I just wanted to show you as to who I am, what I'm about, because no matter what negative situation in your life does happen, as I said, like, it is an opportunity to learn, it is an opportunity to become better. It's not about leaning into them and letting them affect you for going forward in later life. Otherwise, it's just going to consistently slow you down. You always want to just keep pushing forward and obviously having a vision as to what it is that you want to achieve. But with those negative situations, it's going to help you become a better person. And that's what I want to do, and that's what I'm all about. I want to just help people who obviously do feel broken, potentially not even heard, because that's as to how I felt a lot of my life. Probably as to why I had so much anger and frustration consistently built up, because I always felt that nobody actually got me, understood me for actually as to who I am, and all the stuff that used to be going on in my head for the goals and everything which I had as well. I felt nobody got it. And then from that, it built up the level of frustration, and I didn't feel seen. And I had a lot of doubt, and I had a lot of lack of self-belief. And this is what I want to help instill into people who potentially do feel broken, not heard, not seen, to essentially then become unbreakable. So like, with all that in mind, like, there's fucking fitness brands everywhere, like, that's great. And I want to become more than just a fitness brand. Like, that's what I want True Power to be. I want this to be one of the biggest transformative brands out there. Fitness, nutrition, mindset, culture, creating a community, a safe place for essentially people to come together and feel like they are becoming more, and having that network of people around them as well that are all on the same fucking buzz,
pushing to become the best version of them. And I know for a fact by 2026, True Power will definitely be recognised as one of the leading transformative lifestyle fitness brands in Ireland. And listen, fingers crossed, fucking Europe, but in Ireland, 110%. Now I'm gonna go collect my deputy dog. My mum definitely had enough of fucking doggy nanny time, so I'm gonna go collect her. You just make sure you like and subscribe if you want to see more of this shit. I don't really know what I'm gonna post in this. It's not gonna be polished. It's just gonna be more raw, and just gonna see as to how this all goes. So if you like this shit, yeah, I'll see you on the flip side, motherfuckers. Peace.